as we will just go down to the bottom left. We have from the Starlight Twinkle as well. It's back, CG. You thought we were done with it for the day. It is Cham.
Heck yeah, Starlight Twinkle. More Sailor Moon talk. In the top right, we do have the Red Terran SpeCial. Playing from Korea, guys. And playing for Team Scythestorm.
Yeah, a little bit late in the day for him, but such as life of living in Korea while playing in the Americas Regionals. Obviously a choice he makes and something that he knew was going to be the case. And something he's not unfamiliar with, right? Because SpeCial's been living in Korea pretty much non-stop for the last few years. So he's always been playing these regional events from, over in the Korea scene. And having to play late at night and all the rest of it. So no shocks and surprises to him or for him. And yeah, best of 5, obviously. Single elimination, do or die, and SpeCial opens with 2 barracks down on the low ground.
Yeah, so SpeCial has been adopting what I would say is still more of it is the most Beyond thing, but Maru's done it, SpeCial's been doing it, Kelazur does it. Those are the 4 Terrans that come to mind, with Beyond literally doing it every single game. SpeCial just likes to incorporate different builds and different strategies, so I think he could do this actually most of the games, but I would actually suspect he doesn't do it literally every single one. But it also might depend on how good reacting to this Cham is. The 3 Reapers aren't such a big deal usually, but to be honest, even with Cham's victories against SpeCial the last 3 times they played, which was 7 months ago, by the way, guys, his mechanics never really looked all that great, yet he would still win. So I could go and explain it, but I'd rather just wait to see if that's the case here, and then explain it if it happens. Cham winning despite some supply blocks or losing drones to 2 Reapers or something like that.
Okay. I'm down for that. I'm down to just see what happens and then get the explanation given later. Ready for the educational zombie grub mode. A little bit down the line. I feel like Cham's never been that kind of like... It's funny because CVT obviously is a very mechanical matchup. We always talk it's the battle of mechanics. Cham's never been that player to me. He's been quite an aggressive player. A lot of the time in this matchup he would always open roaches. Nowadays that's a much more common and kind of allowed for thing. In the past, it was kind of like, even on maps that just weren't good for roaches, he'd be roaching it up no matter what, so... And he would even play, like, I remember back when Submarine was a map in the map pool, and that was in, the regionals, and he would be playing Submarine every time when it was the instant veto for any Zerg against a Terran. So he's always had that kind of quirky nature to how he plays and so on. 2 drones go down already to the Reapers, and that's already a decent start from SpeCial, who adds on 2 more barracks behind it, ZG. He's going to go aggro with this follow-up.
Yes, he is. And I think this is... I want to say this is going to be really difficult for Cham to hold, because it's difficult for all Zergs to figure out what the follow-up is. When they figure out it's 4 racks, it's difficult to figure out how they're going to use it. Do they push? Do they just roam around the creep? So on and so forth. But especially with Cham. Like, even though Cham has done well against SpeCial and Cham has done surprising well in some tournaments, like his Katowice run really was not bad at all, even though we didn't really get to see a lot of it. It is still kind of, to me, something where every time I watch Cham play a best of, he has to kind of prove to me first that he's playing on point. He's not getting exceptionally supply blocked. He's not forgetting speed, all that type of stuff. So dealing with something that's very mechanically demanding and very, balance, it's a balancing act to deal with this 4 racks from SpeCial. I would say, unless Cham is playing at his absolute best, this would be really good against him. But I guess Cham's playing okay. Losing 2 drones, it kind of sucks, but that's really not the worst. And then, well, yeah, how is the 4 racks going to be dealt with is the more important thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of Marines. First, you got to try and figure it out. You got to realize what's going on here. The problem is if you try and defend this with something like Ling Queen, which is, maybe okay against 2 racks and a follow-up, the extra Marines from the 4 racks is really just going to overwhelm. Suddenly the Link surround becomes absolutely just... useless. It just isn't enough because there's just that many Marines. They really kind of stack up with each other well. So yeah, there's going to be... I mean, generally I would imagine you kind of need some amount of balance with this, no? To just force the Marines to split up. Otherwise, this amount of Marines in a chunk all together, it's going to be kind of hard to stop.
Supposed to be. The problem with building banelings against it is that if they don't move in, then you're still setting yourself back as the Zerg. That's the overall complication with dealing with this push, is that you have to respect it, but it's actually not the worst thing for the Terran to say, okay, you respected it, let me move on.
Yeah.
And then get into medevacs with just 20 more Marines in their pocket. So SpeCial is clearing up creep while given the opportunity. The Reapers open up that opportunity in the main base. Now he's going to sim on top of the third, where he sees that there's just not a whole lot waiting, and he's going to get into one of these nooks or crannies and just slaughter drones and lings. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, he doesn't really get too many drones as he really focuses on the lings that get the surround in the end. Well, a bit of a surround. Obviously, he was really using the positioning very nicely. Kind of, I guess, decent movement from Cham to only have to trade out a bunch of lings. And don't get me wrong, like, he got slaughtered when it came to the lings dying, but at least it was only lings dying. It wasn't, like, all of those drones as well, because it really felt like that could have been an entirely dead mineral line, right? So, do you feel like Cham gets away with this a little bit? Not going to say it's good for him. I think SpeCial's in a great spot. He's up a couple of workers. He is, in a position where he's, up a bit of army supply, and he's still pushing forward. He's still looking to do more. Pressing forward right now, this couple of creep gym is going to take some damage. We stim in. Queen already taking a loss, and obviously the biggest thing is every stim is very pricey because there is no medevac production at the moment, so these stims are pretty finalizing. However, we do very well with the trades. Cham will start to push it back. I mean, it's just too many losses for Cham. I really feel like over time, this is just going to get better and better for SpeCial, especially as he keeps knocking down Overlord, just forcing Cham to rebuild a bit of this, rebuild a bit of that. Cham's going to try and go roaches, but I really feel like with a couple medevacs overhead, this Bioforce is going to start being very unmanageable.
You would think so, but now that we are kind of into this game, I don't really blame Cham himself to for the losing out in the first 7 minutes, because again, I think this is a really difficult thing for Zerg players to figure out. Dark was even having trouble against it, up against Beyond in the GSL, but we are in this position where Cham is, I would certainly say, not in a good place, down 11 workers in a TVZ. But this is a great opportunity for me to talk about how he does usually still win these games, and that is by going for roaches, building up a decent kind of Ravagers, keeping them alive, so unit retention, pretty key. And then what he does is basically he covers the mid-game portion where he ends up being weak because of early game deficits with buying time. Curse of Biles, Roach, Ravager, kind of, taking some time to size up, and then he does get to a maxed out, maybe even Hive Tech army. So undoubtedly the Terran player is ahead in this mid game, but they don't necessarily get the killing blow on the guy, and then he can play, mass Zerg as good as the rest of them. So that's what certainly Cham would like to aim for, is just living at this point, and then later on you can think about maxing out.
Yeah, no, I mean, survive as long as you can. I just do get worried about 1-1 being done for the Terran, but we will see if he gets a push or not. I mean, Omri coming up. I don't know if there's this style to kind of survive when maybe you shouldn't. Roaches really do. Like, they're scary to attack into, because if you do just get overwhelmed, it can go wrong very quickly for the Terran. It's like such a fine balancing line between kind of like the Terran having enough to just overwhelm roaches, and then the roaches being able to overwhelm a Terran, and that's why a lot of the time those aggressive roach all-ins with 1-1 and so on can be so finicky to figure out, because it's walking that same line, but obviously on the other side of the foot, or the other side of the coin, in this circumstance, where this time it's the Terran that's maybe thinking of attacking and wanting to attack, and maybe not having enough to break through the Zerg.
Here's the other thing that Cham can do, and any Roach player can do. I think Dark is really good at this, actually. Dark and Cham might have some similarities, to be honest, but I mean, not too many. But as far as Roachy boys, they're kind of similar in that fashion. Which is that they do still max out as far as mid-game aggression, and the Terran player is, like, kind of caught up in the pacing of a game where they're ahead. They don't necessarily respect the big max out in the mid-game. Basically, the last pennies that a Zerg player can find off of their pretty poor economy overall, but enough to max out on Roach Ravager. So the thing is that I feel like you only lose that every so often, right? You kind of forget those power surges, so you kind of get bopped and you're like, oh, my bad, I didn't respect Roach Ravager. And then it doesn't happen again. So if SpeCial's just keen on this idea that he could be attacked, so that Cham could be maxing out, and these drops are scouting a whole lot, by the way, then he shouldn't make that mistake of pushing into Cham when Cham is actually ready to be pushed into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if the engagement is good enough, then all power to SpeCial.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is obviously SpeCial's leaving a lot of his tanks at home, so at least a lot of what it is kind of fighting right now is very much so a case of the majority of this should get out in medevacs, right? So if he sees this fight not going well for him, lift up, relocate, leave. He's got the tanks at home. This isn't risking the core units that are going to help him defend should Cham counterattack. I think that might be one of the biggest parts that I kind of like for SpeCial. He does lose one medevac bottom left. The other one gets away, though. And yeah, I think it's going to be tough for Cham to attack. And don't get me wrong, I think he's going to, because, well, 64 drones doesn't really cut it in a longer game. But yeah, I mean, there's so many siege tanks, and if SpeCial just sets them up half decently, like, it should be more than enough to catch the W here.
Again, if this was dark, you know what? I would absolutely love Infestors.
Yeah.
Infestors with Corrosive Bile, not just a great combination, but also great at time buying. That is absolutely what Dark does when he wants to also make a comeback happen. Catching a couple of tanks when they're not siege is pretty good, and actually coming in with a bit of a surround. It's obviously not a lot on the left side, but enough to distract the tanks, enough to threaten the tanks that were still running away. And Cham might be taking one of the better fights they can, but those upgrades kicking in for SpeCial, I mean, those are going to help as his bio ends up living somewhat, but all the tanks are gone. One more on the backside of that third CC.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a wilder fight than expected. Just Cham getting the right moment, getting in there at the right time, and finding so much value. And now he's going to sit here. SCVs will begin to pull. SpeCial has army supply, but some of it's across the map. Now getting cleaned up by reinforcing roaches.
No.
Does Cham have enough to keep the pressure up over here? It does seem as though for the moment he does. A couple of Liberators showing up, but they're going to fly overhead. The biles on this tank will allow it to get one shot off, and that should be it. And we just continue to fight, and SpeCial has to run out of this little bit of a choke point as well. He's not having a good time. And this is looking very decent for Cham, who is down on upgrades for a few moments. With reinforcements showing up, that might be what SpeCial needs to finally push this back. And he will turn this away. But man, I mean, you kind of said it, right? Like, pushing in. He didn't really push in as much as he was just out of position. And yeah, getting caught out of position is the same sort of effect. Has it been enough for Cham? It definitely was a lot in his favor. Let's see if he has enough now as he's going to continue going through. He's got a hive on the way as a follow-up, but it feels like he needs more right now still, and he seems to agree.
That one tank sieged up is actually adding a lot here, but it finally gets taken down, and Cham just barely winning out in the major fights. Now those upgrades are finished up here. SpeCial, not enough cash after all these SCV pulls to start up that +3 attack. Also, the Orbital getting a little injured. Should definitely never go down. And things still don't look all that great for a Zerg player who is still dependent on Roach Ravager, but if Cham could take a chill pill and actually get those fungals, maybe a few more drones, he could go back into the time buying maneuver, but I guess he's also thinking that if he does that, SpeCial will have all the time in the world to recover. So he's just gonna gun it. He's just gonna go. That hive is never gonna get used.
Nope, it is absolutely not. There's a few more corrosive biles. The siege tank goes down again. A couple more biles on the next tank again. Doesn't have enough. Okay, there was a couple more at the very end. SpeCial just pushing this back. I really feel like SpeCial has enough. I guess a lot of his supply is caught up in medevacs that are very low energy, so they're not adding a lot to this fight. And another Liberator goes onto the map to harass once again. We've seen that a couple of times now from SpeCial, who is just edging ahead in the overall supply here. ZG is just about finally turning this into, I think, enough of a proper advantage. And more than anything, I think just outlasting Cham, who's low economy this entire time, is finally catching up to him.
Right, exactly. And just frankly, the what's the word I'm looking for? The coordination between the Terran army, right? The tanks are together with the medevacs with enough bio to cover them. So that was starting to miss out in certain key elements as SpeCial trickled in some units, some reinforcements. But now that he's gotten to that size of the army that beats back Roach Ravager, it's easy peasy afterwards. Because the upgrades, medevacs, bio, it's all very good against roaches. It's a little worse against spellcasters, or, well, spellcasters can help, I guess is the better way to put it. But Cham never got there. Cham actually decided that his emergency backup play was going to be Tunneling Claws.
You know, I really wish, obviously he built the hive, and we haven't really seen much from the hive. I really wish he mentioned it. Infestors. Like, that's the thing Dark does a lot when he's behind or in a very similar situation. To draw on that parallel again, where it's like, Dark's behind, but he gets just a couple of Infestors out, and, you know, one or two really good fungals can sway a fight. And with the rest of the Karabs that Cham had in this game, I would say one or two Infestors might have actually made a difference just to kind of, you know, towards the final kind of portions of a fight or so. These roaches burrowed up. They might be able to still get something of a catch as Cham trying desperately to make everything possible. If you can get on top of the tanks and maybe kickstart this with just killing all those off immediately, well, never say never. Oh, let me scan and find them. Cool. Never mind.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was still a bit on creep, so SpeCial was not just scanning the creep, he was probably scanning literally to figure out where the army was too, because that's why he sieged up and had just been attacking into him, so where the heck did it go? So Cham, actually, I think he was playing conservatively by not moving his roaches, ended up playing into the hand of SpeCial, which is just unfortunate. So Cham loses that element of surprise, and also, of course, the fight.
Yeah.
He is still working off of a seriously low economy, and it's not like his 3-3 upgrades are really going to impact, I think, all that much. It's not comparable to the Terran's +3 finishing.
No. Yeah, do feel as though the more this goes on, the more it feels, better and better for SpeCial. He's going to knock down this base easily. Just getting to that stage is good for us of Vials here at least, but getting to that stage where the Zerg army just doesn't really face up well against the Terran force, and this kind of counterattack is cute where it can force the Terran to be a little bit kind of outnumbered, just kind of force fights in your favor, but even this wasn't really going his way. He was losing out in the bottom right. Cham's supply really plummeted the last few moments, and SpeCial takes game number 1 over Cham to start us off in the Americas.
But it was a perfect example of what I was talking about, what we were kind of getting at, that Cham didn't necessarily set himself up for victory at any point in that game. He was clinging on to the hope of victory, and coincidentally, like, choosing the right timing to max out and to move in and finding those tanks on siege. Anything else, like SpeCial picks up the attacking bio faster to move back faster, I think that's already one thing. Because I think when he stayed there down in the bottom side, it was also kind of a reveal. It was a tell that he was going to have to go back home, so Cham took the opportunity to move out in the map, to move in to engage. And then obviously, if he had not had moved his tanks into the roaches, it would have been a much easier game, less scrappy than it was. So if Cham were to win that game at that moment, it would have been more on SpeCial.
Yeah.
Then it would have been Cham looking, really amazing.
It's kind of exactly what you said. Like, there's a way Terran can lose these situations. It does happen, and SpeCial really tried his best to show us exactly that. He's like, great point, ZG. MaxFax proved Wardy right earlier about his, Phoenix play. Let me prove you right about how Terran can lose these games. And he really did try, because that fight, like, moving forward, just a little bit unaware of where the army was, became very costly. He had all the scout, and he had drops on the map to tell him that, hey, there's only really army coming out. You don't see enough saturation for this to be a big macro attempt from Cham. That you should have been able to piece together that maybe a little bit more safety would have been perhaps just that little bit better. But he found the game win in the end anyways, just maybe making it a bit more difficult on himself. SpeCial in the bottom right leads by 1.
In the top left, as the blue Zerg, he is Cham.
Well, and Grezvan for game number 2. Cham. I'm going to say Cham never really got to play his game, of course, right? I mean, he just took damage early to the point where he was definitely already behind, and yeah, maybe he played his game in terms of getting into roaches, but he never got to play from, like you say, it was never like he was in a position where like, oh yeah, he's looking like he's going to win this one or anything. So, would be interested to see what we do with regards to that following up, as that is a double guess from SpeCial. Low ground barracks again, and off to the races we go with some funky stuff, starting us off game 2.
Yeah, he's doing it again. I said that I think he could do it for most of the games, but I wasn't expecting it for every game. And I'm still going to stick with that. But then again, if it's a 3-0, I can't really...
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you if he was planning it or wasn't planning it. It's only a single barrack, so it's already a bit different.
Yeah, it is a little bit... yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the single barracks is like, okay, but then what are we gaining from this? Like, we're going to put the factory at the front as well. Your add-ons are down here. Is this really just about shortening the distance across the map? Because it feels like, for the most part, a lot of roach attacks are just complicating your life, because then you've got to defend the low ground when you could have just pulled up to the high ground. Obviously, that's not always true against every roach attack, but against some of them, it might kind of play out to that sort of situation. So not 100% sure what's going on here, or what his real kind of end game goal is, or what he feels like the benefit to this is. The Overlord's going to scout the factory straight away, so... yeah, maybe it really is just about getting across the map a couple seconds quicker with the Reaper, the first couple Hellions, and we'll guess we'll see if we can do anything with any of that.
It still walls off. That's more to say than a high ground wall off, right? With a factory expand. But it is a unique opener because it is ultimately a factory expand versus Zerg, which we know isn't super common. And I do think that this is week 2 a roach rush. The 2 racks is not actually, but this I think would be. Yeah. Unfortunately for Cham, he is doing it.
Yeah, he's gonna put the roach runner down now. He's like, oh, it's week 2 a roach rush, CG. Thank you very much. I'll take that one and utilize it nicely. Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is that it's just, you're going to end up building kind of half and half. You're not even going to reactor out Hellions, and then Hellions aren't good against roaches in the first place. Definitely can see how roaches could do well here, especially if it's just a lot of them. We'll see how many Reapers we end up building. The third one is already out, and maybe that will be the limit. Reactor now starting. Being very careful with these Reapers as he just pulls them back in time each and every time. And yeah, we wait for this Roach run, and I guess we'll also see what the starport builds, because if it goes instantly Tech Lab and then Banshee, which it is seemingly going to do, then I feel like we're going to be very safe here, and that's going to give SpeCial a pretty good position against these incoming Roaches.
Yeah, when I was talking about the Roach Rush, I was talking about the earlier one.
Yes.
I liked the idea when I saw the Roach Horn go down, because I think, it was a reaction to the Overlord seeing. Excuse me, that it was a 1 Rax, not a 2 Rax. But now the problem is the starport. So, yeah, with that Banshee being the defaults, that's what SpeCial is going to go into anyways. After seeing the Roaches, he feels even happier about going into those Banshees. And now it's just about buying time, which, again, that natural wall will help do.
Yep. No, I mean, everything about this seems pretty reasonable. Going to have a Wood of Mine that should be able to grab a kill. Depends if the Ravagers see it and get the biles on it in time. But again, I mean, that's just buying time as well, as the Banshee's going to pop out and then start to pick through these Roaches. A couple of Marines will pull back. There is the first Wood of Mine shot. Actually hits nicely. Kills a Roach and splashes a bunch of extra ones. So just less hits to kill each and every one of these Roaches now is going to make the Banshee clean up that much faster. Just generally a good thing. Going to start with the Ravager. Move on to those Roaches. Going to pull the SCVs. Obviously, we don't have a wall up into the main base, but I wonder if just even making the making the Roach Ravager walk into the main base would have been better. Because it's got a while to go before it reaches anything too meaningful, so maybe something there. Cham currently making 4 Overlords to get out of a bit of a supply block scenario and not deciding what he's going to do next. Finally, 6 drones start up.
This reminds me of a Reddit post with supply managers don't want you to know.
Yeah.
And it was just like 3 different Zergs with 130 supply to 200.
Yeah.
I was like, well, maybe Cham didn't need all those Overlords. And I know I'm joking, I'm laughing about it as we finally witness the end of the Zerg rush happen. But legitimately, that's how many Overlords was it? 6? 4?
Yeah, I think he had like 4 on the way at once, but maybe added a couple more after 2, because he went from like 54 to 90.
Yeah, exactly. So but that's, that's larva, that's 100 minerals that you would want to go into drones first. Every second that you don't have that optimal drone count for Zerg is going to hurt, and it's not like you did that much damage to your opponent, who does have 2 mules still being dropped, and you still don't quite know what their follow-up plan is either. So usually it would be into bio or mech, and that's going to take a while to figure out, right? But in this case, it's actually more Banshees with the Banshee speed upgrade. So if Cham's not expecting that, then there could be a lot more damage done to him anyways, which seems like it might be the case. Doesn't have a whole lot of queens, literally on 3, man.
And one of them's like dead.
It's a very
already.
low amount.
This one's like 2-3 hits away, so if more Banshees show up, that's an easy pick. And honestly as well, like if you have more Banshees, just fighting full HP queens becomes so much more viable too. So yeah, that could absolutely be a way for just SpeCial to do ridiculous amounts of damage. We do see Overlord speed starting up from Cham, as he is up against this mech style. 4 more factories will begin here, building a couple at the front even. The barracks flown across the map. Hellions going to run by into this mineral line. They just find 8 drones very quickly, and going to make it 9 before they are done. 1 Hellion out to tell the tale.
Well, this just feels like a complete role reversal. Cham might have done enough damage to be okay if literally nothing else happened, right? At one point he was up 15 workers, so that would sound good. But then he just takes all this damage. He's really not getting his feet under him, and again, he doesn't actually know what the follow-up is, so he has no real defense against these many Banshees. Still 4 queens. I guess they're all pulled to the front at the very least with an Overseer, but none of the other bases are protected.
Would you rather 4 queens or 4 Banshees, CG?
I mean, queens are pretty good.
Queens are pretty good. That's why I thought it was actually an interesting question.
Yeah, I'd still say 4 Banshees. Because then I would at least know that they can't go across the map too convincingly. Yeah. I mean, Cham is, and I hate when Zergs do this, where I'm like, I got Banshees, you can't do this, and they do it anyways, and I'm like, oh no, nothing's at home. But seriously, this is probably not going to be worth it for Cham, as he loses 9 more drones to the Hellion run by as well, and there is a Banshee defensively at home, so these little trickles of roaches are going to do a whole lot.
The dropper lords are coming, though. They're going to have queens inside of them, I would imagine, I would guess. I mean, we've got a couple. Yeah, I mean, the Banshees come back home. They started to defend. Cham's already losing a lot of units. This is not feeling as though if his intention is to truly just go and push. I mean, he made 2 dropper lords, but he only has 5 queens, so he only picks up 4. Like the second dropper lord's like, wait, I've never been in a game where there's not been enough queens to pick up, man. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. This is clearly already off the rails. Cham, I don't believe, was setting up for this. This is a more reaction because he got double evolution chambers so long ago. Now he's using them, which is also weird. And well, 4 queens don't actually beat 6 banshees, which of this. Well, there's 5 actually. I thought he was still building them, but still.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they all die, and then the tanks are doing a good job, and that will be GG. A very underwhelming game number 2 is, yeah, just the Banshee basically set the tone for the entire game, right? Just defends against the roaches initially, and boom, we are golden pretty much from there on out. So, not kind of the back and forth of game number 1, and just SpeCial looking that much more convincing than what he looked like in that first game. Good defense. Sets up well, and up 2-0, SpeCial is kind of saying, hey, look, I'm the king of Latin America, even if there's no Latin America region anymore. You know, if I'm still the highest placed in Latin American player, I can still claim that title.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he could, but he has to beat Kelazur.
That's true. He's on the other side of the bracket, Kelazur. I was actually saying, like, with a good bracket, I don't know if it was, I think it was last week, so maybe it wasn't with you, but I was saying, I actually really feel like Kelazur, with a good side of the bracket, could actually have, like, a really good shot of winning the Americas, and you know, I think I was saying this after he beat Estrella, and yeah, I think it must have been with Cats, and yeah, I mean, I like his side of the bracket. I feel like he's got a doable TVT, and to potentially Scarlet in the round of 4, who he's already beaten this season as well.
Yeah.
Very doable. Then Kelazur could go all the way.
I actually guessed it would be Kelazur versus SpeCial in the finals.
Yeah.
Latin American takeover.
You have no faith in your NA players?
Apparently not.
You hate your home region. Unbelievable.
Well,
Fear Dragon is mouthing at you right now. Like, he is actually upset.
I'm sure he is, but that's okay. I like bothering him anyways. In the bottom right, we have Red Terran SpeCial up 2-0 now.
SpeCial is taking on the Blue Zerg in the top left-hand side from the Starlight Twinkle, the Twilight Sparkle, Cham.
Twinkle, twinkle. SpeCial once again going for that low ground barracks. Plural? Not plural? Who knows?
That's the beauty of barracks.
Barracks is...
yeah,
it's already plural.
you can just say it, and it could mean either one, so you're right either way.
Nice. Amazing.
Thank you, Terran build orders.
Yeah, thank you. But you know, last game, I think it was one of those games where I think someone was just one step ahead. Where SpeCial has certainly done all these builds before. He's going to do the same factory expand too, which means that he's also learned its vulnerabilities. So, not to say that it's always going to be, you know, invulnerable and it's always going to work, but it seemed pretty clear that he realized an Overlord Scout would give the timing to a Zerg player to do some type of Roach all-in. So a Banshee is really necessary, because they see what we saw, right? Where it's like, oh, this would be weak against really early Roaches. But a little bit later Roaches, a reaction would be countered by the Banshee. So I think SpeCial just kind of had that already on lockdown, kind of almost happy to see that Cham did that. Again, it might have arguably done enough damage to be warranted for Cham if the follow-up damage wasn't there. But we'll never know because we can't go back and replay it. So again, if Cham had been so bold as to go for the fastest 2-base Roach Rush, then again, maybe SpeCial could be in trouble. But it's a very dangerous thing to do in general against Terrans, I would say. What if they do just play like a normal game and NSCV Scout? And then also when you're in your last life in a single elimination tournament. Be pretty ballsy.
Yeah, that would be. That's very true.
Oh, he's going to do the proxy starport thing and then... Remember that game?
Or just Banshee?
No.
No?
No, it's just Banshee. It's a, I think it's a Liberator, actually. Oh. But I don't know if you were there. Maybe I wasn't casting with you. But there was a game where... It was SpeCial, wasn't it? Where he, like, proxied a starport, and then he refused to send it back home. So it kept on getting denied. And so he never got enough medevacs to do his build.
Maybe?
Or was it a Kelazur? It was some... I mean, it was definitely a Terran.
Yeah, it was a Terran build in a starport? Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. No, it's like, I got that much.
when I saw the starport going down, I was like, this could be proxy BC. That's the exact kind of thing SpeCial would do and try and make work, so... I was kind of thinking that, and the idea is like you can fly the BC in and it will have the teleport home, so you can be a bit more aggressive with it, whereas usually you teleport across the map. I think it also makes sense to just say that this obviously could as well just be a Liberator harassing. Probably is a much more logical first step at the very least, and I think that's exactly what it's going to be. So yeah, I just got overly excited about a BC. Too.
Sorry, man.
It's okay.
Nah. Hopefully chat remembers what game I'm talking about, because it actually led to the Terran players' defeat, because they literally didn't have enough medevacs to do the mass bio style that they were trying to achieve. So I don't remember when it was, but it definitely happened.
That sounds like it could have been like a euthermal thing as well.
It definitely wasn't euthermal. I haven't cast that guy in a while, unfortunately.
Oh, is that
so
long ago?
I'm talking like the last 2 weeks.
Oh, last 2 weeks. Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. Oh, that definitely wasn't me, unless I was absolutely zoned out of the game. That does not ring any bells at all. All right, well, the Liberator's about to pop, and it's going to head into the main base here, ZG. So we've got ourselves the opportunity to deal some damage. Lings are plenty on the way here from Cham, which you kind of do need. You want to get those Ling counts rolling, especially to start dealing with these Hellions and Reaper numbers, which are rising. But then if all the queens are at the front defending, apart from one, this Liberator can do very well. Gets a good siege up. Cham hasn't noticed yet, so he's going to lose some drones before he even reacts. 1, 2, 3. No reaction still. 4. I mean, he's busy at the front still dealing with Reaper Hellion, so he's just not removing any of these drones. Finally, a reaction after 9 kills, and we're actually going to lose a queen on the front, I think. Oh, grenade knocked it out of range.
Yeah, it might be dead eventually. Now, this is exactly what I do believe SpeCial has done before, and it's working out even better, actually. The funny thing about the game that I barely remember is that the Liberators did a lot of damage. It was actually an effective opener. It just lost momentum. Actually, I think it was Kelazur. Yeah, I think it was Kelazur. But the same idea. It lost momentum after doing a lot of damage because there weren't any medevacs. But I don't know if SpeCial's going to do the same thing. And if it was Kelazur, he did it on 2 different maps. And if it was SpeCial, then he's doing the exact same thing he did on Neo Humanity last time, where he may even land the starport around the Xel'Naga. Yeah, that's what he's doing. It's so funny. I hate it.
Maybe I do remember this. For some reason, I remember the starport relocating to a Xel'Naga tower.
Right?
Now I have no idea at all.
What games did we cast? When was that? Who was? Anyways, I mean, it must have been part of the Swiss groups, but good lord if I can remember. Point is, this has done a lot of damage, and if SpeCial doesn't make the same mistake that this other Terran player that I kind of remember but kind of don't does, then he should be able to follow up with a really strong bio play and never lose momentum. Never give Cham a chance to come back in this game. The drones, some of them locked up against that queen. Hellions will sacrifice themselves for 7 more drones. I mean, 21 have been killed in this game.
Yeah, you just take those, right? It was, yeah. I mean, honestly, he had a drone. He hit the drone on the mineral line, and if you hit the drone, like, just south, I think you would have killed, like, 9 in the first volley anyways as well, so... I mean, good damage done. Obviously, Cham has just taken a beating throughout this. You've lost 21 drones at this point. Yes, it's a lot of stuff that's been thrown at you. Cham is scouting, by the way. He's going to find the starport over here. As there's already Marines on the way over to help the starport, though, so medevacs will get out, and it looks as though SpeCial will indeed get to start rallying up here.
Chat's saying that it's probably the Gamers Without Borders tournament.
SpeCial Reynor.
There you go.
Is that it?
Yeah, it might have been. I legitimately don't remember.
I was gonna say I think I remember it because I was like not casting. I was just watching, but it was also not like the last 2. It was like not the last 2 weeks. It's like a month ago, right?
Yeah. No, it was a month ago.
That's why we're confused.
My bad. Yeah, I just don't remember it being. Oh, that was the series where a laser also made that sick comeback, right? On the Grespon. Yeah.
Yes.
It's all coming back to me. Not that it's super important, but you know, we're just kind of watching Cham flounder, so
yeah, the one where like SpeCial was like up like 60 supply or something, and then he
yeah.
Yes. SpeCial laser, yes. Okay.
Exactly.
We're finally on the same page again.
Nice. We nailed it after 2 minutes of floundering ourselves.
I think it's actually more like 3.5.
We nailed it.
We can cut it down. We got a couple of, well, a Ravager, a Creep Tumor along with it, so kill a Ravager, get a Creep Tumor free, and now the medevacs get to escape out. More medevacs still producing off this bottom left-hand corner. Infestation pick coming up from Cham. You know, it's similar to that first game in the sense that you kind of need Special to maybe overcommit in a little bit to give Cham a bit of a better chance at this point. I would just love to see a couple infestors. I really think they can go a massive way, and there we go. A couple of them start up. I love that. I think it's way better than anything he'll do off Hive, at least super quickly. And they give you a really good chance of holding the first couple of pushes.
Yeah, I would love if he prioritized the Hive for Vipers if Special was being more tank heavy. But he is going into the mostly buy, right? No second factory. So the tanks are only being used at home right now. So in that case, Fungals definitely would prefer that. It's going to try and break the rocks on top of Special, but he saw that coming. That has worked recently, but it didn't even win the game. So
yeah,
still a cool idea.
That was Clem versus Wayne yesterday, man. Clem knocked the rocks down, trapped all of Wayne's roaches in, and it didn't kill them, but obviously then the bio could just shoot them while the roaches had to free themselves, so it was a fun moment from yesterday's playoff match. As we have our bio units up this right-hand side, there's a couple of infestors. They don't have the energy yet for Fungal, it's coming soon. But if there was a Fungal right there, boom, all these units are dead, and, well, maybe not dead, but heavily injured. And if you combo it with a second, that would have been a pretty big moment, so definitely a good spot from Special, because now he knows to be a bit more cautious around the map with those infestors out.
Yeah, he is very cautious. He already has to be cautious because Cham once again was able to find enough money, enough time to get into officially now maxed out Roach Ravager army. So even though you can size it up to actually engage into it just willy-nilly, that's not going to happen too quickly. So that was already going to buy time. Now Fungals are also a concern. And so 4 bases for Cham with enough drones to be okay and potentially Hive technology. It's still definitely a game. Special doesn't even have his 4th command center as fast as I thought he could. No Fungal, no Fungal. A couple Liberators in the main base. Actually, did they scout the Greater Spire?
No, they did not. Yeah. Just that little bit of information could be kind of critical a bit further down the line. I was terrified for the Fungal and those Medivacs like Biles or something, but yeah, it didn't happen. Special just taking a forward 4th base, and we have got the Corruptors coming up. The Broodlords are an eventuality here at this point. And yeah, kind of funny to see the Greatest Spire on the way at the same time as Roach Speed in a Roach game.
Oh my god.
It's that's definitely something that's a little bit missing right now for Cham.
Yeah, who needed it, right? Who needs it? Marauder Slow not gotten for Special either, tip for tat.
Grabbed an infestor
I say Roach Speed's a little more important. The slow push is working out if there wasn't a kind of sudden tech swap on the way. If Special takes out this Roach army, then the Broodlords aren't going to be enough. But if Cham can actually hold on to a decent Roach army and build those Corruptors, which are still unscouted, I believe, then there's a real chance he could push this back. Excellent Fungal on top of mostly Marines. A little bit of a split stops the Corrosive Bio from hitting, I guess, majorly. But Cham is losing out, I think, a bit too much. And now the Broodlords are scanned. Vikings start up immediately, but I was going to say, I don't think there's enough for Cham to actually stop the Marines. Well, Fungals are always good. Another one hits the Terran army, but the Terran army is also getting really stimmed. Really stimmed, but it's got this. It thinks it's got it. It does got it. The Broodlord's about to finish. Finally, they finish up. One of them was killed. And that is still a lot of supply lost for Cham and a base over to the left side, but at least he got Broodlords, right?
Yeah, he got the Broodlords, and now Special's probably just going to nether attack into those Broodlords and always attack around them. I mean, Special obviously just saw this as a moment of like, oh, I've won the game, right? I'm just going to stim and kill him. But he wasn't far off doing the Fungal. He had to respect, so he backed away for a second. Marauders took the Infestor out, and then he was able to move forward. If it wasn't for that one Infestor, I think he would have been just on top of those Broodlords, and he would have just already had himself the kill. As the Corruptors coming out, and a couple of Vikings that were hoping to just get an easy cleanup on the Broods are not going to happen. And in fact, we nearly get the Corrosive Files on the Vikings, but man, the Liberator is just all game. Showing up and killing drones and just being so annoying. It feels like every time I look back to the top left corner, it's because this Liberator is there. There's just always been constant harassment on those mineral lines in a game that Specials looked very good in anyways.
48 drones killed to 0 SUVs. Cham's workers gonna have to unionize shortly. They're not doing so hot. And Cham, in total, is also not doing so hot. If there was an extra 30-second spot where he still had a maxed out army with those Broodlords and surprise SpeCial, he's marching across the map, at least taking care of SpeCial's 4th base, if not moving on even further. It would have been a really scary moment. But having lost so much and forced so far back, giving SpeCial plenty of time to maneuver around, drop, engage if he thinks that he can, and of course build up Vikings and Thors. Take care of those Broodlords. SpeCial's got this game in the series. Covered up.